there were so many good things that you touched on in your first, our imaging MRI segment
Mhm.
where we talked about fitting in the run game and quarters and man to man. And man, how long or how quickly did you deduce, shoot, all this man to man on the back end, Cincinnati with the motions and the late movements, and how soon did you know that that was going to maybe slow down Nebraska in reading their keys in an opener?
We talked about it in the whole back and forth quarters man stuff. Butler kind of made maybe more quarters. Real more man. And early on, it was pretty much a lot of cover one, and I think it was more so just the confidence they had in their DBs. Obviously, Marsh started off the first play with a nice defense pass breakup. But you could tell they're confident in those guys cover. We saw Diamond Jones pop off the table, or pop off on the film. I think early on, as you saw it, as Butler said, it Sorsby turned into a high school game later on. That was pretty much it. Once he started to see there was going to be man guys going to be turning and running with the receivers. That's when it kind of got a little more wide open for him. And I think it's not something to, I think you said it quite a few times, nothing to freight or get worried about as Husker fans, right? Definitely fixable. And I think it's more fixable with scheme than it needs to be with personnel. I think the personnel is there. I think there's some things we can do a little bit differently, work some different rush counters and things like that to be able to take away those gaps. But, again, for a first game opener, I think you saw a pretty good idea of what Nebraska's defense philosophically would be. Now it's just getting that personnel to, like you said, trigger, play fast, and be aggressive in those fits.
Real quick, MRI, when you're playing so much man and you have to communicate pre-snap with motion, what kind of experience, and I know you were a two gap guy and it was a little different, but you understand like the +1 and why you guys bracketed and stuff
Right.
like that for the run game. How quickly, when we say, oh, Nebraska looks slow or they're not this, where it's compounded by the fact that when you do have to fit in the run game playing so much man, you need your keys to kind of settle, right? Like you have to real time process where they're going to end up, how it
Mhm.
relates, how you want to fit in the run game.
You're gonna know what I'm talking about, DB. My man, my fit, right?
100%.
My man, my fit. And like you said, my fit has to get to its ending point, right? Perfect example is just talking about with a fan on X last night. The goal line touchdown, right? Where they ran the triple option, brought both tight ends across.
Yeah.
And they were in man-to-man coverage
Talking
there.
about Sorsby scramble.
No, not even the scramble. It was on the goal line, 3 yard line. They sifted both tight ends across,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
On the
I
zone
got you.
read.
I got
And
you. I
right
got
outside, I think it was
you. Yeah, they.
Shaver.
Yep, yep.
And yeah, obviously Shavers, he's the quarterback player, right? He got too far up the field, right? He could have been more square to the line of scrimmage. But the person truly initially that should have leveraged it was Buford. And Buford was coming from the other, or was on the same side, but then you also had another DB with the other tight end coming over that had to leverage his guy. And he ended up leveraging it, but we're on the 3 yard line. I mean, how much you gonna be able to leverage it from being on the opposite hash and the ball's going to the opposite pylon? So the communication has to be there. And you saw him on that play, you saw him communicate. You know what I mean? I think, again, schematically, there's a way, we can pass those off. In Bo's terminology, we call that banjo. Hey, we're going to go 2-on-1 on the back. Or we're going to go 2-on-1 on the tight end. Hey, if the tight end goes this way, I'll take him. You go to the post. If the tight end goes your way, you take him. I'll go to the post, or however way we're going to do it. And I think, again, it's not nothing I see as personnel. I see it more as schematically. There's some things they can do to help their guys be in better position to make those type plays. But like I said, that's one you got to chalk. That's a great play call by the offense coordinator and good execution. Now we had the numbers there, the body was there. We talk about the +1 and numbers advantage. Like we had that on that play. But I mean, Sorsby's a good athlete. I mean, you got to give him that. He's a good competitor, and sometimes they do get in the end zone. But I think it's easily fixable.
B, let me ask you something. I apologize,
No, you're
Ravi.
good. You're good.
Let me ask you something. So little things like head placement or, an inside move or
Yep.
not taking on a puller to occupy a blocker, just things that fundamentally you teach.
Mm-hmm.
At what point or how long or how competitive do you make it as a coach to figure out, do I need to do something different philosophically or do I need to play different people?
I think in their case, with how young especially that front seven is, I think you want to exhaust as
All
much. Yes, yes. I want to see this. this is going to be the group, if this is going to be the group up front for the first 3 to 4 games, I want to see that. And knowing the way they've been competitive in their practices, the way Rule speaks about, the skill set, the skill set depth, maybe not the experience depth they have at the D-line position. We have guys that may be ready. A couple of guys that maybe still be warming up in the bullpen, getting ready to go for that Big Ten stretch. And now we can expand their role, a little bit more. So I want to see them play. I want to see them make mistakes. And I think, obviously, I know Michigan's looming, and everyone's thinking, hey, we got to make sure we're at 100% peak right there. But I think it's going to be it's going to be ebbs and flows. It's going to be ups and downs. And I think you gotta just take every week for what it is. Honestly, I couldn't tell you anything about Akron. I tried to find the Akron-Wyoming game, and I found a TikTok said that may have been the worst football game in college football history. So I really don't care what Akron does. I think this is all about Nebraska this week. Going in, fixing the things they need to fix schematically. If we need to do something a little bit differently, let's do that. But at the end of the day, I want to see these guys make mistakes, right? I want to see them make mistakes fast, because we're going to have this group for a while, hopefully, for at least the next 2 years. So it'll be good to see them get that experience now as we continue to develop other guys in our practices and on our scouting teams.
Michael, so I wanted to ask you about the defensive line. You talked about kind of the diversity of skill sets there and the depth of skill sets with the different pieces and how you like the talent, but we don't have a ton of experience there, which is, I think, all true. I also was really interested because in your I'm going to call it Twitter still because it feels weird to call it X, on your Twitter breakdown of Cincinnati's offense, you were basically dead on in everything that happened and was going to happen against Nebraska's defense. You predicted a close game. That's what we got as well. So I'm curious, when you're watching that and you're seeing all the movement they're trying to get done on that front, and you see sort of the rushing attack that Cincinnati was able to mount mostly in the last 2 drives, if we're being honest. When Sorsby stuff, because I believe they were under 100 yards of total offense halfway through the fourth, or 100 yards of rushing offense halfway through the fourth quarter.
Right.
How much of that are you like, hey, that's on the defensive line versus, hey, maybe we leave a spy in there a little bit sooner to try and negate some of those scramble yards, because a lot of those, especially in the fourth quarter, weren't designed runs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. I mean, that last big one, they dropped back off play action. I think 3 or 4 receivers went deep, and they're in a bracket, man match, man type of coverage. You got to have – and that was my biggest thing I said coming out of it. I think the biggest concern, if you're going to have one with this D-line, is will we find a guy that can win one-on-one? Yep. And that's where it's going to be. If you want to play these NFL-style man match, cover 2, with
we're captivated with size and girth. It's about winning one.
Who can win the edge? Yeah, who can win the edge? And they have to find that. They have to find a guy who can do that. Is it bringing down a backer and putting them at the at the end spot on third down? Is it more athletic options there at the opposite end spot? I think that's what we got to kind of look at.
So let me sing.
All
right.
Can I follow up?
Yeah.
So, if I'm rewatching the game, Michael, I basically only watched the lines for the most recent time I rewatched the game, just because I wanted to see that exact thing you were talking about. I wanted to see on the running plays that Nebraska was giving up or doing well on the offensive side, how much of it was getting reset or how much of it was resetting the line of scrimmage either direction, right? And I felt like what you're talking about, guys that can win one-on-one. I thought Williams-Nwaneri did that. I thought he wasn't very good at staying
just lane integrity,
like gap sound, right?
Yeah.
Lane integrity, right? So I thought he was winning, but there's a thing that he's got to be a little bit more disciplined on, right? And then I thought pretty consistently Keona Davis beat his guy. So I'm curious if you saw that as well, and if you think they've got the guys to win those one-on-ones, or if they do need to get a little bit more creative, bring a linebacker down or something like that.
I think in the run game, I think it's going to be a lot of what we saw, a lot of stunts, a lot of movement slants, getting guys across the face, making the ball bounce. They're going to utilize that speed on the back end to, fly. I love Deshaun Singleton, how he comes down and plays football.
He got much better too.
Man,
right?
Yeah. Yep. That first opening drive tackle he made
a little with those two-way goes, but
me, I'm people. It's fine.
No, you're certainly not alone.
I know.
Like, so let me. Can I stay right there for a second? Am I right? And let's just keep it a buck, right? Because we know we're talking about number 8. With what they're asking this secondary to do, my man, my fit, the multiple fronts. How much pressure do you think there is on that back three? I mean, because and I know Guthrie didn't get a ton of snaps. I think he maybe 4 or 5, and he had the missed tackle on the long run. We talked about Buford fitting in the run game, Singleton early trying to settle down with some two-way goes. You saw they put Donovan Jones in run fits, back that close side with a tight end. How much pressure do you think there is on this secondary to be able to not just get guys to the ground, but to really, truly set edges and boundary run?
It's tough. I mean, they want them in the box. I mean, whether you're playing starting in the roof or we're rolling you down, in different coverages or just in man-to-man coverage, like they want those guys fitting. And I think the skill set for them and versatility for all those three guys in our back end, I think that lends itself to be able to do that. I think they trust them to play fast and to be able to fit, in the run. Also play in coverage. I think that skill set has to be something they lean on, and I think that's why you're going to see a lot of movement. You're going to see a lot of A and B gaps being canceled with stunts and gaps because they know they got guys that can fly around. Again, it's a lot of pressure, right? You would like for that D-line to be taken away by let's get some guys that can win a one-on-one, right? Or, it's that twofold thing. You understand it as a coach. Either I need a guy who's going to win a one-on-one, or I'm going to have to pitch a perfect game. You know what I mean? As far as when I call my stunts, where I call it, looking at who am I actually stunting into that gap.
So that's the thing, right? We saw the very first play. They tried the little TE, the late show where your jack slam, C-gap, a loop, Judy. He got picked off, right? So it looks like to the naked eye, oh, man, he's driven off the ball. But as a coach, you're thinking, all right, he probably should be a little flatter.
Right.
Our end man did a really good job, a good first step. Does he need to be quicker? Is it his depth, or is he even capable? That's something that the coaches can decide after they continually try to teach the technique, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, I want to see these guys make mistakes. Obviously, we want to see them put points on the board, but I think it's okay for what we're seeing right now. Now, if this is week 5, week 6, we're deep in Big Ten, we're seeing the same stuff, then we got a problem. Either we should change personnel earlier, or philosophically we need to figure something else out. But again, I think this is a great week for them to get confidence back in their base scheme. And I plan on probably seeing a lot of cover one. It's going to probably be a lot of my man, my fit stuff. They want to see those guys tackle. I know it's going to be loud in the stadium, and those guys feeding off that energy just like it was at Arrowhead. So it's going to be. I'm not saying it's going to be a good game, but I'm definitely watching to see what so what are the adjustments? What are they doing differently? Are they going to just kind of play it, just play it base and kind of get to the next week?
What's the difference when you hear Coach Rule say, hey, we won't see a lot of Sorsby's versus we probably need to shore up some things when we get QB run game, right? There's truth, probably, I'm guessing.
Yeah, there's truth in it. But again, when you go back and look at it again, the runs he got off structure, out of structure of the play. A lot of his Zion's run weren't really big runs. And again, I think Ravi said it earlier that, going to that spot a little bit earlier and finding different ways. I mean, you gotta use, if we do get in a situation like that, which I think Childs is probably the next guy we'll probably be able to see who can really run like that. I know we got who's the kid from Michigan, Underwood. He's can run.
That's a
mistake. I feel like he's more of a power guy.
He's the brother, but he's not really a runner by
right. Name. Yeah. I don't see him being. I see him kind of being more like Sorsby in the sense that a lot of his runs may come off of off the.
And I don't think that's what he'd like to do either. He wasn't really like that in high school. I don't know. So I could see Chillis, maybe Gronowski, down the road at Iowa is a good athlete, but
But I think again, they got to find a guy that's going to win one-on-one regardless. You know what I mean? Especially in the pass rush. If you're going to have 7 guys back in coverage.
So, Michael, I'm glad you brought up the coverage part of this, because I do think when we're talking about concerns about the defense, we kind of conveniently overlooked the fact that they gave up 69 yards of passing in the entire game, which is kind of an absurd number. How much of when you're watching that that film? Are you just saying like, okay, I understand you got to clean up the QB run game on the scrambles, especially because those were really the only QB runs where they got chunked, right? We're off a non-designed QB run. So you're like, okay, we definitely have to clean that up. How much of it though are you looking at as somebody who played defense, somebody who coaches, where you go, okay, you're always giving up something, like you understand there's a weakness in whatever defense you're running. How much of it do you watch and you're like, hey, they were basically going to say, hey, you're going to have to drive down the field running because you're just not going to hit any chunk pass plays on us, which they didn't the entire game.
Right, and that was the game. I think, you know, when Cincinnati was clicking last year, it was being able to run and be able to hit shot plays. And I think they said, okay, you might be able to run the ball, and I, you know, I don't know what the exact numbers were for the running backs as far as rushing, but I don't think they were over 100, maybe combined. But either way, yeah, you're going to give up something, right? And again, they make them drive down the field. You know, the coverage, when you look at the coverage and you look at it, say, I really can only see like when we want to miss 2 opportunities Cincinnati in the pass game. But other than that, I mean, they were blanketed, and guys were well prepared for the route concept they were running. You know, was in fairly good technical position, and made plays on the football. I think that's one thing we've always talked about in Nebraska, our DBs. Sometimes we just don't feel like we're confident enough, like knowing we're in position to go make plays on the football. And I mean, you saw that several times. But we got more experience back there, and I think that's something we got to remember, that on the top end, those 5 DBs, right? We got a little bit of game experience, got a little bit of you know, awareness of the game and things like that, and how fast you got to play in those type of things. So you're hoping that maturity on the back end, right, will help, right, as those younger guys on the front end gain more experience, get more knowledge of the game, and that light bulb truly comes on. You know what I mean? When the lights come on Saturdays.
Let me ask you something, MRI, from because nobody better to speak to it. So, you know, a couple times, you know, we're so worried about what's happening on the interior of that defense. A lot of it comes from second level fitting as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, playing pullers and leveraging the ball. We, you know, I'll say this, you know, Watson Trent and Shavers missed what I felt like would be a considerable amount of time for inexperienced guys leading into a game week. And I get it, Watson Trent, you know, you got almost 400 tackles. You're not inexperienced in playing football.
Right, but
you do have to replicate game speed coming out of camp. How much of you think fitting from the second level is reactionary because I've seen it enough, i.e. reps, versus I need to play with my guys more from a trust standpoint to help me hit my fits? Like, what's that kind of balance like? Is he boxing it for me? Do I trust it's a spill? Like, how much of the trust can speed up your style of play from the second level?
I'll tell you what, I never played faster when I had Vincent Valentine, Malik Collins. I mean,
probably helps a little bit.
I'm a 4.75 guy, DB, but you got those 2 big bodies in front of you. Randy Gregory on the outside. I mean, you're gonna play a little fast. But I think it's a little bit of both, man. And I think it's too within the structure of the calls. Like, if you're gonna be stunting a lot, right, up front, those backers better know how to play patient, but know when to trigger, where to trigger, and understand, have gone through different scenarios, how that ball's rolled outside. Okay, hey,
is that the reps part?
Yeah, that's the reps. That's the reps.
Okay.
You got to get the reps, and 2, you got to see it versus different schemes, right? Nebraska, you know, our offense is quote unquote multiple, right? They run a little bit of everything, right? Okay. But, you know, you're not going to see everything in fall camp. And I know they do a good job within those last 2 weeks of camp.
You certainly aren't going to see 2-back lead, right?
Right,
like
right. Yeah.
Base kick. Like, you're not seeing that a ton.
You're not seeing that. So as a backer, if I got a lot of movement up front, you know, I'm trying to feel the flow of the back, understand my fit on maybe a fullback or puller, while also knowing that, hey, I might have a guy cross my face because he's stunting into the B gap, right? So just getting that familiarity with each other, knowing that, hey, if I'm behind such and such number, hey, he might not get across as fast, right? So maybe I need to lean more to the play side a little more. Now, if I got somebody, he's moving, he's getting across, or I know this stunt, we're going to execute it well because, you know, I've seen this situation in practice, then I can play a little bit faster. But I think it's a little bit of both, having that experience of getting the reps, seeing the run concepts, but also understanding with this defensive line and this front and what Butler's doing, there's going to be a lot of movement in front, right? So being able to, I don't want aggressive reaction, right? I don't want to say just reactionary, but being aggressive in my reaction. And when I see it, I go, I feel it, and I be physical, at the point of contact. Knowing too, you got 3 guys on the back end. It's also coming down and working fast too. So I think that should kind of open you up to be more, aggressive and downhill, in some points.
One of the things I was impressed with, number sake aside, is I didn't mind McCullough in the run game because he was so decisive.
Mm-hmm.
When you
play,
right? When you play with a guy that gets to where he's going, sometimes in essence is that 4th D lineman.
Mm-hmm.
How does that help you on the second level?
Man, I kind of see all the confidence in that first play. He kind of stalked around and then jumped out.
Yeah, that was that late movement front, right?
And I saw that the first play, DB, and I can't say we saw anything like that the rest of the game. So I would be very, very shocked if that's not something that pops up later on.
That's a good pull, right? He looked like a radar guy. Then all of a sudden,
just found his spot. But I think like you said, his decisiveness, on his stunts, he's going where he's going and he's going fast. I think the other thing too is you can see he's probably has some of the most experience on that front 7. Playing and transfer. I know Trent obviously played as well, but playing at Oklahoma and playing in a bigger stage. I think he's a guy that has to be a chess piece. We saw later on in the game. We talk about those runs later, Ravi, on those scrambles, and it was some situations they blitzed him, and they also had him on a spy. And when they had him on a spy 2 or 3 times, Sorsby's in the pocket. I mean, that guy, he runs like a deer. You know what I mean? He's long-legged, and I think he's a guy that has to be a focal point. I could see him maybe, getting him into we used to have a rush package, just a basic odd package with Randy, and where he would stand up, kind of how he got that pick on pick 6 that one game at home.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see some packages where they're going to isolate him. He could be that guy, DB, talk about bringing a backer down to be that 4th rusher. I could see him kind of entering into that role, just using his athleticism and speed, on that weak side, blind side, and just kind of letting them go. So I would like to see that more, because I think he can open up a different level of defense with his versatility, pass rushing.
All right, and here's the other thing too. If you want to use him in the run game, he goes so hard. He is decisive. He does get to where he's going. Can you see them probably spilling more with him than as a box guy that has to kind of hold point and maybe box it for an inside backer? He looks like a prime guy to knife in on a puller, take on, squeeze on the down blocks. He looks like a guy you could use to be a pretty good spill guy.
Yeah, I think that would be ideal, especially with the speed on the back end, getting the ball to the sideline, letting those guys kind of run and rally. So yeah, I think that role fits him perfectly. Long arms. Again, it's just a decisiveness, a different. We talk about that light bulb. The light bulb's on for him. Like he's seen it, enough times to where when I see my key or I know, hey, I'm going to this gap, I can play fast because I trust, right, that what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing, and that's what I've been coached to do. So I think there's a level of accountability for him too, and just discipline and assignment that we just got to get from those guys with and get them more experience, as they keep rolling.
I'm all right. Let's flip to the other side of the ball real quick before we let you go here, because we heard a lot about, hey, I wish Nebraska had been a little bit more aggressive, trying to push the ball down the field, stuff like that. When you see how Cincinnati was playing with their kind of umbrella coverage with the 3 deep safeties and how they were trying to defend Nebraska, what did you think about Nebraska's game plan and how it was executed?
Exactly what you're supposed to do. Exactly what you're supposed to do. I think if Dylan goes out there and tries to force it into windows, right, we're talking about a different result probably. You know what I mean? You get that Cincinnati offense more opportunities with the ball, with turnovers or just killing drives with, throwing the ball deep and those deep coverages. I mean, they run a similar scheme to Nebraska, but they're definitely a lot more, umbrella. They want to play Tampa 2, keep everything in front of them. They got that big nose tackle. I think Corleone, who, He can play 3 gaps. He's going to play the A gap plus the B gap the way he squeezes things. So that's just how they play. And I think
when you have, can you real quick explain when you have a guy that can actually, even if it's not intentional, act as a 1-man 2-gapper? How that you have a free you have like a free defender somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to command a double team. You know what I mean? He's going to command a double team. So, your backers can fly. They play that same 3-3-5 with the 3 high safety, your rover or star, whatever you call him in the middle. He can fly around and be a little more aggressive or more. You can lend him more to be in the passing game, and you can play that shell. And I think, we did what we're supposed to do. I mean, I think we were able to. I'd like to see us run the ball a little bit against that front. I think that's the
downhill
that's the thing for me.
You need more lead. You need more lead.
Yep.
I hope. You can speak to this. We may keep you for another year. The difference between offset backs and pistol, from your vantage point on the second level, with what direct full, like what flow looks like. It's a lot more lateral offset versus pistol, which can be a little bit more direct. What's the difference in the run game for what you see when Nebraska's on offense?
Well, if we're in pistol, right, especially I'm just go from a backer and safety fitting kind of standpoint, right, we don't have a key as far as where that guy's going to go unless it's something formationally, right? Maybe tight end offset, how they motion, whatever the case may be. So we can't be so aggressive, right? So, something for us, probably for you guys, like first thing you talk about backers and DNs and stuff like that is, hey, is the back away from you or back to you? Well, if the back's away from you, what is it probably going to do? The ball's going to probably come to you so you can play faster. Now, if the back's to you or on your side, right, the ball's going to go away from you, so you probably need to be a slower player. So understanding that is vital. The pistol kind of gives you a little advantage.
Two-way go.
Yeah, two-way go, right? They can't really tell initially off the snap. And like you said, it's more downhill, right? It's more downhill and straight at you. And like I said, I would like to see, some ways, maybe, I don't know, true fullback or tight end in the backfield and leading through and using that opportunity to run those power runs against, that 3-man front.
That's huge. That right there, that's a cut up. Like that's the adjustment, I think, if you want to get downhill in the run game.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think it's something that they can do.
You don't even have to change your scheme. It's it's alignment.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just alignment.
You can still get the duo. You can still run inside zone.
Mm-hmm.
Still run outside zone. Like, it's just a different way to get to it.
Yeah. No, I think it's something they definitely can add to their arsenal and, won't change philosophically anything they do,
Michael, let me ask you one more question. Last one for me, at least.
Okay.
It might be.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I'll say I can't speak for what DB's going to do next.
I wait.
So this might be a dumb question. So just like give me a little grace here. We were talking about Deshaun McCullough, and I was interested in the decisiveness we were talking about there. As a second-level guy, would you rather have somebody who decides quickly even though it might be wrong, or is indecisive for a long time?
Be wrong.
No, you better be wrong. 100%.
Be wrong.
Be wrong being 100%. Yeah.
Hey, listen, if we're all if
at least
if we're all wrong, we're all right.
All be wrong.
But be wrong fast. Okay.
Yep. That was a Mark Banker moniker right there. If we're all wrong, we're all right. And sometimes we were all wrong a lot. And I don't know if we were always right. So, that's one of those coaching cliches. Like, if you get a special team touchdown, you win the game 80% of the time. I got to see the numbers on it.
Yeah. For sure. Well, you got no sense, I tell you.
Oh man, I love starting my morning off with you guys, man.
Man, we appreciate it. You've rapidly become everybody's favorite again. I don't know how we gave you a year off. That's on us.
And I think it was more on me, man. I was a little stressed at my last.
I think he was going through some stuff last year in his real job.
Yeah, that was
Hey, it's open arms, man. Ravi's favorite band. We're like Creed.
So arms right open, baby. Michael, we appreciate the time as always.
Man, appreciate you guys. You have a great day. Go Big Red.
That's our guy, MRI.